Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Hello, how are you? My name is Chris Richardson, President and General Counsel of BDV Solutions, taking questions today from people. Let's see, one of the first questions I had was, how do I think the Visa Bulletin will look for next year? The next year, I guess, beginning October 1. I think we were all nervous, scared about the Visa Bulletin because, the government had put out that little notice basically saying that, they thought that we were going to run out of numbers. We still might run out of numbers, which is both a good and a bad thing. It means that it's good in that they're using up as many numbers as possible, but it's bad because it means that the Visa Bulletin may not move forward in time. And so, I was hopeful when we saw that the numbers actually did not move. Even though it did move, I'm glad it didn't say like unavailable or there were no numbers available for September. And so, my hope is that they'll continue issuing cases in September, and then in October we'll see a big number moving forward. So that's a positive. That's great. Another question we had was about, and then for the rest of 2026. We're going to just have to wait to see. I'm really curious to see in mid-September what the Visa Bulletin says, and let's just see how far that goes along as well. Another question was about any office in Bangladesh. No, but we do have a new person who is Bengali and who travels to Bangladesh quite often. We are looking at expanding our connections and expanding our ability to work with people overseas, because that is important, that we are not only traveling overseas and visiting clients overseas, but that we're also helping and moving with clients as well. Let's see, any other question? Oh, sorry about that. Wow. Let's see, is anything being done to improve LC approval? Yes, our government relations team has been active in working with the U.S. government. Department of Homeland Security, Department of Labor actually just set up a working group via John Basilice, who used to be at the chamber, but now he's working with us. And so the DOL actually has improved. Prevailing wages seem to be coming back a little bit faster. I suspect that the labor certifications themselves will be coming back faster. They've already started coming back faster, and so I'm sure that in a couple of months, especially in 2026, we're going to see a much faster DOL process, which is both a good and a bad thing, because it means that while DOL is faster, USCIS needs to move faster too, and we need to be thinking about different ways of getting USCIS to move faster, and or finding ways to push for things like exempting dependents, exempting and also recapturing old visa categories. And those are all things that we've been pushing the Trump administration on. And we're actually looking at having another meeting in Washington, maybe at the White House itself. We're really going to push on these things. And so I think DOL is doing pretty well. I think DOL is moving in the right direction. But with all things immigration, it can't just be the one department that's moving fast. All the different departments need to be moving a lot faster. So we've had a couple questions about, where do we think the numbers will go in 2026? I think that I'm hoping that we'll break into 2022 by this October. I'm hoping that when the Visa Bulletin comes back in October, it'll come back moving forward. But I suspect that what's going to happen is what's usually happened in the last couple of years, is that the government keeps the Visa Bulletin as is, and then just sees what kind of traction they're going to get. And then maybe November, December, they may move it forward in time, 5, 6, 7, 8 months. So if I had to guess right now, I'd say in October, they're going to keep things steady as it goes. And then in November, December, January, when they feel better about where we are, then I can see them advancing priority dates faster. Here's a question. Someone's mom is from Pakistan and the age is 46, and the person's wondering if there's any age restrictions. No, there are no age restrictions. Now, I will admit that, if you're 60, 70, the embassy will ask about kind of if you can do the job and what's going on with the job. And can you actually do the physical labor for some of the jobs? And so, if you're doing a janitorial company or if you're doing certain jobs, it makes sense for a 60, 70-year-old to do them. If you're working in manual labor or really one of our harder jobs or like roofing, the government's going to ask a lot of questions about whether, a 60, 70-year-old person can do that. Someone asked about if you work with BDV Solutions, do you need to pay lawyers separately? No. BDV has its own lawyers. We think of ourselves as a one-stop shop for all immigration related to EB-3 Unskilled. We're the biggest EB-3 company, and we really have the experience and the talent behind us to move things forward with EB-3. And so, no, you don't necessarily need an outside attorney if you work with us. Question, how long is it taking to get a green card while in the USA? It's the same as if you're out to the USA and if you're doing EB-3 Unskilled. EB-3 Unskilled is taking about 3 to 4 years, closer to 4 to 5 years even, to get the green card approved. And again, there's another question here about the priority date of February 2022. When will that be current? If I had to guess, I would say March or April of next year. If your priority date is in 2022, I suspect the government will move forward in time. And I get this question a lot about, well, if there's such a huge backlog of cases, why do you think the government is still moving things forward? And I think it's because a lot of those old cases aren't real. I think that a lot of them, when the embassies and consulates try to interview them, they see that those people are no longer interested, they're not applying, they don't want the job, and therefore the government kind of moves on to the next person. And so I do think and suspect that you will be seeing cases move forward in time. I had a couple questions about the Dignity Act. Listen, I think the Dignity Act would be great. Yes, it does lift the country caps, which I'm not a big fan of. But if you are to exempt dependents and if you're to recapture old cases and increase the number of green card approvals, then I think that that's a sacrifice that would be beneficial at the end of the day. Something as simple as just recapturing the old cases or exempting dependents would nearly double the amount of EB-3s that are available. So yes, I would love it if the Dignity Act passed. I love any act that passed that increases the number of green cards. Unfortunately, I don't think we're in the environment politically where that's going to happen. We're pushing on it on our end, but I don't believe that the president feels that he has deported enough people who are here undocumented. He doesn't feel like he's done enough on border security to engage seriously on the Dignity Act. Now, is it possible next year that'll happen? I surely hope so, but it's very unlikely that Congress is going to be taking up serious legislation like that in 2026 unless the president wants it. So the Dignity Act is probably the only viable path to immigration reform that's out there because it's bipartisan, supported by Democrats and Republicans. But the president himself hasn't shown a lot of willingness or desire to work on this issue. And so because of that, I'm skeptical we're going to see any kind of movement on immigration next year. I hope so, but it's an election year, and election years are a little bit tough to be working on immigration reform of any kind. My hope is, though, that enough businesses and business leaders get a hold of the White House to try to push them on immigration reform. But with Elon Musk and his team on the outs, there aren't a lot of people who are in Washington who are in power and want to see immigration reform, unfortunately. How many Bangladeshi candidates get green cards through DVC. I mean, is that, I don't know if that's DVC or NVC, but we have a ton of Bangladeshi clients. I've been to Bangladesh myself and Nepal, and I think that that's, it's the numbers for Bangladesh are so large in terms of EB-3 that they have their own visa bulletin, like a mini visa bulletin within the embassy itself, not just for EB-3, but all the different visa categories, because they don't have the staffing to deal with it. But also, they've had a lot of difficulty with finding staffing in Bangladesh, and so they've had to slow it down even more than it should have been slowed down. Although I have heard that it's speeding up for my friends who work at the embassy there. 2022, again, I get a lot of questions about, do I think that the visa bulletin will touch 2022 next year? I believe so, but I don't think that we'll know that until probably December or January. I do not believe the visa bulletin will move forward in October. I think that the State Department's going to want to wait to see before they actually move the visa bulletin forward. Let's see, can a person already in California with a valid work permit be an employee in your company? Or I assume that what you're asking is if you already have a valid work permit for another visa category, or OPT STEM maybe, can you work as an employer of one of BDV's partners? It depends. And so I would highly encourage you to reach out to us directly. Every situation is different, and I don't want to give legal advice to somebody online. And not just because, like, as a lawyer, I'm not supposed to, but also I don't want you doing something and being like, oh, Chris Richardson told me I could do this, and then it doesn't happen, and then I get in trouble for it. So for questions like that, definitely reach out to our team, because I don't know what type of work permit you have. I would need to know all of that stuff. Let's see. If I apply 2026 for EB-3, if you apply in 2026 for EB-3, how long is it going to take you? Again, if I had to wager, I would say close to 4 years, if not a little bit more than 4 years at this point. The visa bulletin, there's a pretty big backlog, and so I think that's going to be an issue. Someone commented about their mom being 46. NVC won't object to it. The embassy won't necessarily object, but they will ask questions about it. We have had a couple of applicants on the older side. 46 is not old. I'm almost 46. I'm okay. But 46 is not, by the way, let me just correct that right now. 46 is not old. That is not old at all. No one's going to judge a 46-year-old for doing the job. Again, not old. I'm almost 46. I'm a year or two away from 46. So I definitely don't call that being old. What the embassy would say or question would be if your mom was 70 or 80 and trying to do a crew member job. A 46-year-old doing a crew member job is not that hard, and I haven't had or seen any questions at all from the embassy about, in all these thousands of cases we've done, no one's ever had an issue being 46 and being a crew member. It's only the people who are in their 70s or 80s that the embassy sometimes question, but even then they'll issue the visa. Again, someone asked me if there's any movement expected. I don't think so. I hope I'm wrong, but I think that they're going to pause, and they're going to want to wait to see what kind of numbers come in and how their staffing looks before they move the visa bulletin. So I suspect that they're going to just say the same thing it is now, and then they're going to wait and see. So whatever September's is what they're probably going to hold to for now. In October, see how October works, and then maybe November, December, we'll actually finally see some movement. The Dignity Act is just a dream. That is unfortunately correct at this time. I just don't envision the Trump administration getting behind it. Now, if President Trump said he wanted it, it would happen tomorrow. But from what I can tell from the people in his administration, they do not believe that they have done enough on border security to justify immigration reform as of yet. And plus, there's a lot of domestic stuff going on with the Jeffrey Epstein stuff. Trump's already kind of made his base kind of mad over that stuff, so he's not going to want to put his neck out on immigration reform when he's already kind of in hot water with his base. Let's see. So my priority date. So we have a question here about if someone has an approved I-140 and their priority date is January 2024, is it possible that they are going to get their EAD and AOS before the priority date? No, you won't get current before you can file for the adjustment of status and the work permit. It is possible that you will get your work permit. It's probable you'll get your work permit before you get your adjustment of status approved, but you're going to have to wait for that priority date to become current before you can start working. What kind of questions do consular ask BDB applicants during the interview? This is a great time for me to plug Argo. If you are a BDB candidate and you're about to interview, you will get a chance to talk to a former visa officer, such as myself. I was a visa officer, and we'll help prep you for your visa interview. It's really important that, lawyers, I'm a lawyer too, we're decent at prep, but really the only people who understand the heart and the mind of a visa officer is a former visa officer. And so we prep all of our clients with the opportunity for a 30-minute, hour-long consultation, and that's part of our business package when you sign up with us. Let's see. How can I directly connect it regarding marriage-based work permit? If you have, I shouldn't be answering this question because it's a marriage case. Someone's asking about their marriage case. But if you have a marriage work permit, then you should get that within 5-6 months of applying for your adjustment of status. Actually, probably closer to 4 months at this point of your adjustment of status. And then you'll probably interview for your actual AOS, probably a year at this point after you file, if it's a marriage case. But you should talk to your immigration attorney about that and not EB-3 Facebook group about it. Let's see. Statistics on 100%. How many green cards approved and how many rejected? Oh gosh, the last time I saw, we had 1,894 green cards approved, but I think that's been updated. And in my time here, only I'd say a handful at most green card denials. About more than 18. It's probably closer to 1,900. Almost 2,000 green cards approved at this point. But the last time I saw it was 1,894, but that was a couple of months ago. So it's probably over 2,000 now green cards approved. Only a handful have been actually denied, actually outright denied. And most of those denials were because of factors outside of what we could control. Maybe things not told to us, maybe things involving the person's ability to stay in the country. And normally, if the denial, and we have had denials, and then we've challenged them, and we've won all of those challenges, or most of those challenges rather, or we've taken things or encouraged people or help people in federal court too. So if you mean those denials too, that probably bumps it up a little bit more. But in terms of actual, we've done everything we possibly could, there's nothing else we can do. Those denials are pretty small. And it doesn't compare to the 1,800 plus people that have gotten green cards through us. So yeah, if the person's 46 and then, has to wait 5 years and now it's 50, 51, is the embassy going to object? No, that's still not old. Like if the visa bulletin was 20 years and your mom was in her 70s or 80s, then the embassy again is going to have questions. But I've seen people approved in their 50s up until 60s. Actually, I have not seen an age. I've seen only one person denied. Or the embassy that raised just a bunch of questions. And I think that woman was in her 70s. But everybody else, though, even people in their 50s, I haven't seen much not even much pushback from the U.S. Embassy on those. See, on F1, my LC was filed in March. If your LC was filed in March, yeah, you're going to have, if you're on F1, the best thing you can do is just maintain your F1 status as long as you possibly can. Hopefully, we'll see some movement in 2026 and 2027 as well. But if your LC was filed in March, yeah, you're looking at this point, April next year before that's approved, April or May of next year before that's approved. And then to be current, you're looking at another 2-3 years at this point, maybe 3 years at this point to get that current. Is it possible to get an H-1 visa while pursuing consular EB-3? It depends. Like most things in immigration, it depends. So yes, you can get your H-1B, but the embassy is going to ask questions. It depends on when you apply, right? So let's say you have an H-1B visa now, or let's say that you're actually, the way this question's phrased, you've already started pursuing EB-3 Unskilled. Can you now apply for H-1B? That depends on when you filed for your EB-3, right? So the U.S. Department of State doesn't have records of Department of Labor filings, and Department of Labor filings don't necessarily show immigrant intent to the embassy. And so, they're not going to question or ask any questions because they're not going to really know or care. Now, if your LC has been approved and you filed an I-140, yeah, it's possible the embassy is going to ask about that H-1B, because H-1B, is it dual intent? Maybe, but I could see embassies or consulates at least asking questions of you as to why you're pursuing an immigrant visa while simultaneously pursuing a non-immigrant visa. So that is a question that could potentially come up. I'm requesting an introduction to BDV. Oh my God. Well, welcome to BDV. Happy to introduce you to BDV. I'm assuming one member of our sales team or someone is going to tag you and talk to you shortly about it. Let's see. I've been out of status 20 years ago. Can I be eligible for EB-3? Like most things, Wilmer, it depends. It depends on when. So if you've been out of status 20 years ago, it depends on when you left the U.S. and how long you were in the U.S. Did you commit any crimes or anything in the U.S.? Did you do anything 20 years ago? If nothing happened, and also were you underage 20 years ago too, right? So if you were under 18, it doesn't count against you. But let's say that 20 years ago, you were over 18, you left the U.S., any kind of ineligibility or bar from you applying has already passed. Because if you lived undocumented in the U.S., you're barred for 10 years. And so that 10 years has passed, you should be okay. As long as you didn't do any crimes or anything like that in the U.S., no fingerprinted, anything like that, you should be fine. Now, depends on which administration's in charge. They might ask some questions during your citizenship interview. But for EB-3, though, you can definitely apply. Let's see. No, I have to clarify. So you will not be able to apply for an EAD before your priority date. You have to have a priority date current before you can apply for an EAD in AOS. Many of us have been pushing. We pushed the Biden administration, which I'm sure the Biden administration wishes they'd done a lot of different things now. I wish they had too. And I don't think the Trump administration is going to change this. But no, you have to apply for your AOS and EAD while your case is current, while your priority date is current. You cannot apply before then. There is a movement to push for change on that, but it's very unlikely. As of today, this is what you must do. Someone said that their interview date was canceled. Yeah, sometimes, especially during the summer months. Well, one, I hope and assume that the visa backlog, that they're still issuing green cards. I know I saw one approved yesterday, so I assume they're still issuing green cards. But as long as they're still issuing green cards, if your embassy canceled your interview, it's probably because they just don't have the staff to deal with it right now. And so you'll need to check back with the embassy itself. And you should reach out to our team just to make sure that we're able to help you with that. Let's see, backlogs will get the visa bulletin backlog. If nothing else changes, I don't think it's going to get back to 2 years for another couple of years. I think right now if we can just maintain at the levels that we are, that'd be great. And I think that in a couple of years, though, we'll probably see those numbers start to come down. If nothing else changes, if the administration doesn't change anything in a positive way, which is also possible, always possible. I always tell people the story of in 2007 when the then Bush administration decided to make everybody current. Just issued all. It's like, okay, we're just making everyone current. Bring it all in. They had to go back on that, but yeah, you just never know when they're going to do things to make things move faster. Okay, Ricardo Rich asked, why don't I think the October visa bulletin will have a large movement? Because I think that the State Department will, and who's control of the visa bulletin, I think that they're going to want to wait to see kind of what the fluctuations look like, what the numbers look like, how many officers they have. They wouldn't want to do a big jump in October because then they're going to be flooded with a surge of applications immediately without fully understanding how the rest of the year is going to look. And so October isn't just it's not just the beginning of the fiscal year and the visa bulletin restarting. It's also the State Department's new fiscal year too. So they're going to want to wait and see just how many cases they have, how big are they, like what's the volume of the case look, what's the volume of the cases look like, how many officers they're going to have. All that stuff also happens in October. And so normally, yes, it does move forward, but I suspect they're going to want to wait before they move things forward fast. Now, I think November, December, January is when we'll probably see the most movement because they'll have a better handle on how many cases they're actually going to get, and also how many cases are going to be, approved. Let's see. Can I answer? I'm from the Philippines. Let's see. So the thing about the visa bulletin is someone asked about, can you really predict, where the numbers are going to be? And I can't, right? Like I can do it just based on what history shows me and tells me that sometimes, it moves faster, sometimes it moves slower, sometimes it doesn't move at all. But historically, EB-3 has always moved at a certain pace, even during the worst of the backlogs. Even at those times, it was always about 4 or 5 year wait. And so, these are some of the worst times that we've seen, or I wouldn't say the worst times, but inevitably, it's like a pig in a python in that, your backlog shrinks and shrinks over time as people either quit, give up, get tired of it. And because of that, the officers have to move it faster and faster in time to catch up and issue people more green cards. And so I'm pretty confident that if you apply today, it's probably going to be a 4 or 5 year wait at this point. Probably 3, well, maybe I would say a hard 4 years at this point. Let's see. If you're Philippines and working in Saudi Arabia, yes. One of the great things about the State Department now is you can kind of apply for these things from anywhere. So yes, if you were in the Philippines and you were working in Saudi Arabia, as long as Saudi Arabia allows it, the embassy allows it, you should be able to apply. Let's see. Can you apply for E2? Yes, you can apply for an E2 even after your I-140 has been approved. There's no disadvantage to applying for an E2, just that, well, I guess the only disadvantage may be that if your E2 business goes really, really well, hypothetically, and then, things become current, your case becomes current, how do you choose which one you're going to work for, your current business or your EB-3 business? And we've had a couple of those. But the great thing with that is that it's at least a way to get into the U.S., work in the U.S., while also preparing for your EB-3 job. And so I've seen lots of people do that. But yeah, so I do believe in it. Let's see. So the visa bulletin most likely not moving in October like last year. Again, I don't know. I just don't. And I hope, again, I super hope I'm wrong. I hope that it moves quite a bit. I hope that they wake up and they say, yeah, let's put the gas pedal to the metal, as they say. But I think that the embassy is going to, the State Department is going to want to be a lot more cautious than it is now about these things. Let's see here. I'm going to take one more question here. When and how do you think the travel bans will be removed? Unfortunately, I don't think that this administration is going to be the one to remove it. I think if there's another president in 2029, that person might be the one to remove it. I can see them making things a little bit easier for Afghan people of Afghani origin. I can see them making it easier for SIVs. I can see them making the bans easier in the next couple of years even. But, you know, in terms of like an outright removal of the ban, I don't think that's going to happen under the Trump administration. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for this. As always, it's really, really nice. I'll try to do this again next week. And thank you for your time. And I'll see everybody later. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.